Have you been finding yourself getting easily discouraged? Well, in this video, we'll talk about 3 things you can do which will help you not lose your motivation. Welcome to The Current Christian, where we give disciples the tools and tips they need to grow their ministry. If you've been looking for a channel that can help you grow spiritually, mature relationally, or help you enhance your skills as a leader, then you've come to the right place. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. At some point, we've all faced that feeling of discouragement while pursuing some type of goal or dream that God has put in our hearts. There are multiple reasons why we may get discouraged, but let's talk about what we can do to not lose that motivation that we initially started off with. The first thing you need to do to stay motivated is recognize that goals are marathons, not sprints. In a race, all runners run, but only one gets the prize. Run in such a way as to get the prize. If you plan to run in a race, you better know what kind of race you're running in. The same is true when you plan to pursue a goal. Chasing any goal or dream and expecting to reach it quickly would be like signing up to sprint in a 100-meter dash, only to find out you're in a marathon and needing to sprint for 26 miles, which is about 41,842 meters. Sprinting in a marathon will only lead to you burning out quickly, getting massively discouraged, and then never finishing the race. Marathoners know they need to run a long distance, and they know it's going to take a very long time. So they train their body to build up endurance, they train their minds to stay focused on the goal, and they pace themselves so they won't waste energy or burn out before reaching the finish line. We too should have the same mentality as the marathoner. If we recognize that pursuing our ambitious dreams or goals will require us to be persistent and focused over a long period of time, then we can better prepare ourselves to not burn out and can more easily avoid discouragement when we find ourselves not yet at the finish line. Just knowing the journey is going to be long isn't the only thing you need to recognize, though. If you don't want to lose motivation, you have to understand troubles are setups, not setbacks. When troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. When your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. When your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. This Bible verse reminds me of something neat I learned while studying game design, which was enemies and puzzles aren't meant to prevent you from progressing in the game. No, they're actually designed to help make you a better player so you can face harder enemies, solve more complicated puzzles, and receive an even greater reward in the end. The same is true with how God has designed our lives. In life, we will face challenges. Just how a video game designer uses challenges to help set us up for the next part, the troubles we face in life should be seen as setups for growth, not setbacks. However, pursuing any God-sized goal means we will face God-sized problems. When we don't know how to overcome these problems, it often drains us of all the motivation that we have and leads to massive discouragement. In order to not lose motivation during these times, we need to remember to trust God and ask God for help. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God and He will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask Him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. For a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Now, this is certainly countercultural because we often set up safety nets in life, so if one thing fails, we have another thing that will possibly save us. In theory, this does sound wise, but when you're pursuing goals that God has placed in your heart, it is actually very dangerous to do this. The best example I can think of are those videos where you see people hesitate to jump off of a cliff into water. What happens is the person quickly approaches the edge. They kind of jump off, but not really because they're afraid they'll get hurt. But what ends up happening is the person winds up getting more hurt than they would have if they just either fully committed to jumping off or not jumping off at all. When we are pursuing a goal that God has given us, we need to decide from the very beginning if we're willing to fully trust God or not. God wants to help us, but we need to ask Him and trust Him. Both go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. You're not fully trusting God if you aren't asking for his help, and you can't expect God's help if you aren't fully trusting him. When you begin to fully trust God, those God-sized problems start shrinking and your motivation starts growing. You'll go from feeling shaky to feeling firm and confident because you know God is with you. So, if you don't want to lose motivation, you need to recognize 3 things. The first is goals are a marathon, not a sprint. Troubles are setups, not setbacks. Lastly, but more importantly, you need to trust God and ask God for help. All right, I want to know, which of these 3 points stood out to you the most? Comment below and, let's start talking about it. Thank you for watching. I'd also like to thank our community of supporters over on Patreon. This video wouldn't be made possible without you, and if you really like this video, you too can join our crew of Patreon supporters by donating a few dollars a month to the Current Christian channel. Remember to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.